Two years ago, I started practicing yoga regularly, and 6 months after, it became a daily ritual. I started noticing the physical changes very quickly. My strength increased, my back pain eased, my posture improved. But there was also another subtler change that was happening in the background. That was harder to notice, but I knew it was happening. Today, I wanted to talk to you about how yoga has impacted my mental health and me as a person. I want to share my own experience with yoga because I love to document my self-discovery journey, but I also want to share my reflections to make you hopefully consider your own yoga practice from a different perspective. And if you've never been on the mat before, I hope that my experience might encourage you to step on it and find out what you can discover for yourself. This too shall pass. Sitting through discomfort. Yoga is a very pleasant form of exercise, there's no doubt about that. But a big part of yoga is also enduring discomfort, both physical and mental. And that's not even a bad thing. I remember doing yoga a few weeks ago. It was just after my relationship ended, which was a very chaotic part of my life. It was largely painful, filled with uncertainty, and it was very uncomfortable. I was holding a challenging yoga pose for longer than normal, and I realized that I was sweating, I was in pain, I didn't know if I could do it, and I was feeling a lot of discomfort. And at that point, the teacher said, the discomfort that you're experiencing right now is only temporary. Everything passes, and the discomfort will pass too. Just breathe through it. It was at that point that I realized that holding that yoga pose was a beautiful analogy to what was happening in my life. Everything passes, and the pain in my life would pass too. But I had to experience it, give it space, and breathe through it, like I was sitting through that challenging yoga pose. Meet yourself where you're at today. This is another one of those phrases that I would often hear yoga teachers say during practice. And I'd be like, okay. Because at first it seems very obvious, but when you think about it and when you pay attention to your thoughts, you might realize, like I realized, that in reality I wasn't giving myself the chance to meet myself where I was at. But let me give you an example, because I know that this might be one of those phrases that sound really good, but we don't really know what it means. So often I would find myself getting frustrated with myself for example, not being able to hold a pose, or for losing balance. Or I would think about the last yoga practice and how good it felt, and I would realize that today, for some reason, I'm not at the same level and I'm not feeling as strong as I did in the past. And because I was practicing yoga daily, I was expecting myself to see progress every day. And I didn't allow myself to feel worse and to feel weaker. So initially, I was not allowing myself to meet myself where I was at, because I was spending a lot of time in my head. I was comparing myself to where I was yesterday, and I was thinking about where I wanted to be tomorrow. Once I became aware of that, I simply tried to focus on observing how I was feeling on a particular day. If I didn't feel strong, I just admit to myself that I was feeling a bit weaker that day, and as much as possible, I would try and accept it. After a while, naturally, this attitude started seeping into my daily life too. Instead of reacting and getting involved in my thoughts and my emotions, I tried to practice observing them and recognizing them for what they are. It's not easy and I fail most of the time, but I feel like all I can do is just try. Being grateful to myself. I'm having more moments when I'm not such a harsh critic of myself, and one of the things that I've started doing is thanking myself. Right now, I remember to thank myself at the end of my yoga practice, and I am grateful for the fact that I've created space and time to be with myself and with my body. But I'm hoping that with time, this attitude is going to expand into other areas of my life, and that I will feel that gratitude towards myself more often for other things that I do. And I know this might sound like such a trivial thing to say thank you to yourself, but if you've never done it before, you might be surprised how good it feels and how strange it might feel. So I encourage you to carry out this little experiment and find one thing that you can thank yourself for and see how it feels. And report back. Let me know how it feels. I'm really curious. Just get on the mat. There's a big lesson in yoga about consistency and coming back to the mat. I've practiced yoga pretty much every day of the last 18 months. It's become a very, very solid habit of mine, but still regularly I feel like I just can't be bothered and I don't want to do it. But what I've learned is that the hardest part of your practice is just getting yourself on the mat. And once you're there, miraculously, somehow you find yourself patiently completing your practice. So having understood that, I've started changing my goal. Instead of focusing on wanting to complete the entire practice, my target is to simply get myself on the mat and see what happens then. And similarly to the other examples, I've started applying this rule outside yoga in my daily life. And actually this YouTube channel is a very good illustration of that. I love posting videos on the Y Girl, but it's not easy for me. I procrastinate a lot because I find many elements of this work very challenging and very much outside my comfort zone. But I want to keep going because I know that this is the only way for me to improve at telling stories. So when I find myself paralyzed by procrastination once again, I try to change my focus. Instead of focusing on that final product, a finished video, and all the work that it requires, I simply ask myself to start. Sit down and start writing a script. Maybe only a few sentences, maybe even only a title, but start. As you can imagine, 9 out of 10, I end up writing a lot more than just a title or just a few sentences of a script. So, conclusion here, just get yourself on that mat. Just start. Breathe. No surprise here, right? Breathing is an incredibly important element of yoga and of being alive. I didn't really used to pay attention to this simple act of inhaling and exhaling, but when you practice yoga, you will hear over and over and over again about the importance of your breath. And if you practice long enough, you'll find yourself naturally paying more attention to how you breathe throughout the day too, off the mat. Something I found myself doing ever since I started practicing yoga is focusing on my breath when I'm going through stress or pain, physical or mental. The same way I would focus on my breathing when I'm holding a difficult yoga pose, I would deepen my exhalation and inhalation when I am experiencing high levels of stress. And it's not something that is gonna magically take all the stress away, but it is such a simple tool that's always with you that you can use that definitely makes things better and easier. I'd love to hear from you how yoga has impacted your mental health and your life and maybe even your personality. So if you'd like to get involved in this discussion, then leave your comments with your experiences and reflections down below in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a thumbs up, sharing it with a friend, or maybe even subscribing. It would be awesome to have you in the tribe. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!